Our next question, Jim, sent to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com from Martin in Lisbon, Portugal. I was recently watching an old Dusty Rhodes shoot interview from 2000, and he was very candid about how much money he was making at various stages of his career. When talking about his eventual move to the Crockett territory to take over the book, he noted that he demanded $3,000 a week as booker, had points on 7 different towns, and extra on top to wrestle. So realistically, Dusty could have been making upwards of $400,000 in 1984. Does that seem feasible to Jim? How many other non-owners would be making close to that back then?
I don't know if it was feasible in 1984 because their business was down a little bit, the house show business, but he was making more than that by 85 and 86. So, I mean, we're in the neighborhood, even if it might not be exact. And that wasn't ridiculous. We've talked about it before. If you were in an ownership position or in a booking position, as well as being a wrestler, that was the highest paid position, besides being the promoter and owning the whole goddamn company. The best position you could be in was having some ownership of a territory or being the booker, because then if you were the booker, you were usually a main event wrestler as well. So you were the highest paid guy in the territory, whatever that territory may be. And of course that had, it ranged widely depending on the territory. Frank Morrell told me one time when Buck Robley was booking Kansas City in like 1982 or 3, business was blah. And he asked Frank if he wanted to come in, and Frank said, well, how much money can I make, Buck? And Buck said, well, I made $300 last week, but that was for working and booking. And he said, I don't think I can afford to come work for you, Buck. But with Crockett's territory, $3,000 a week to be the booker, if it was successful, was not an exorbitant fee. And of course he would have paid Dusty to wrestle on the shows as well, because Dusty was one of the, at the time, definitely 5 biggest box office attractions. And there were periods of time where it was him, the WWF champion, and Andre. It just depended. So, and I know for a fact that, especially in the hot period of 85 and 86, when I was there, I know what we were making, and I know that Flair and Dusty were making 2 or 3 times that per night. So it's very easy to think that in 1986, Dusty would have made over $300,000 just for wrestling. And I've never heard specific numbers or if he had points in the towns, but that
was what was interesting to me. What towns would he have had points in?
Well, see, and I'm guessing here, but it's a learned guess. A lot of the territories had what were called office towns, and then the other towns that they ran regularly, they went through a different a local promoter in that area, and he paid the office a booking fee for the talent that he got. In other words, he ran the show, he paid all the expenses, he paid the boys, and he sent the office back 10% of whatever the fucking gross gate was or whatever the deal was as the booking fee for giving him the talent and the promotion of the event on the company's television programs. Would Crockett have said, hey, I'll give you a couple of points in the office towns, was Charlotte, Greensboro, probably some of the core towns there? I don't know that. I never got that deep into Dusty's business. But that's something that also happened in wrestling. In the Atlanta promotional war that we've talked about so many times, 72 through 74, the way that the Briscoes and Buddy Colt, the way that several of the boys got points in the Georgia office was that Eddie Graham orchestrated it to try to give them incentive to want to see that town, want to see their side win the promotional war and Atlanta to flourish. So they gave him points in the new company. Lawler, I've mentioned, for a long period of time before he was complete partners with Jerry Jarrett, had his payoff for Memphis. He had 10% of Memphis because he was so integral to the town and to them drawing money. So if the house in Memphis was $30,000 on a Monday night, which it was often, then he'd get $3,000, and that was 40 years ago. What is $3,000 from 1981 today?
I will look that up right now.
And the same thing was done. It was done not just willy-nilly, but on a need-to basis. When you had a star that was so important to your town or your territory or a certain, part of your territory, whatever the case, that you would give them points to make sure that they wanted to stay there, not go somewhere else, and that they had a concerted effort to. The boys always wanted to work hard because the theory was when the house was up, your money is up. And that was technically true, but you were still at the mercy when you were just one of the boys of the promoter and how he figured the payoffs. And it could be Paul Bosch and you'd be all happy, or it could be Nick Goulas and you'd be, oh, fuck.
$3,000 in 1981 is $8,680.33 today.
Okay, he'd make that on Lawler would on Monday nights in Memphis for turning right on Walnut Grove Road and driving 10 miles to the Coliseum. And that's without wrestling the other nights of the week, and then he became a partner to promotion. We've mentioned Ole Anderson was not only being paid as a main event guy in the Carolinas, and was a main event guy in Georgia, but was booking in Georgia for Barnett. And that was the late 70s, early 80s before they had their split. He had years where he made $250,000 in the Carolinas and the state of Georgia all in and didn't have to go anywhere. Your booker was your most important part of your promotion because he was the football coach. He assembled the team. He was the screenwriter. He envisioned the angles and the matchups and the finishes. And if you had a good booker that could draw you money, then you took care of him. And Barnett was notorious for, taking, what was it, Jerry Jarrett? When he had Jarrett come down and book Atlanta that period of time, I think he gave Jarrett a couple $1,000s a week or something to just come down on Friday, do the Omni show, do the fucking TV on Saturday, have a meeting, and fucking go back to Nashville. But, it worked. They did business. So, yeah, the point is that is not unheard of, and it's entirely possible that Dusty made over $400,000 in 1984 because he made well over that in 85 and 86. And even though 87 sucked, probably close to as well.